lying their faces off. And Paris had an earpiece for transmitting, and nobody mentioned anything about it. That's very improper. Obama did the same thing. His was a lot more obvious, wrapped around his ear. But she had an oversized earring on one side, and that's cheating. So she got coached throughout the whole thing. She's dumber than a rock. All right, we got a lot of questions here. Let's fire them off. I'm ready to roll.
Just before we get rolling into that, the latest issue of the Hat Trick Letter is out. So how can people subscribe to it?
It got posted. I was glad to see 3 days before the end of August, and it's just loaded with information. We actually are doing a kind of a preview. What do you call it? A trailer. It's about 45 minutes or so, discussing what's in the newsletter. And that's a video that is public, and you just click on the website, the public page, front page of the website, and there it is. We've done 2 or 3 of them, and we're going to try to do that on a regular basis and try not to be too lengthy with it. But it's golden-jackass.com, and it's going great guns. And I got to say that this is some of the most important work I've ever done in my life. I got to say that my marketing research, 8 years at Digital Equipment Corp, was the most stimulating and growth-oriented professionally. But this is really rubber meets the road, global war, satanic cult versus the patriots to regain control of each country. The patriots and their nationalism are being called almost like outlaws because they're opposed to the globalist cabal. And there's a lot going on with the election with tremendous economic and financial consequences. Just like 3 years ago, there was a lot going on with respect to the health mandates related to the fake pandemic, which was nothing more than a common cold. Nothing more than a common cold. 99.7% recovery rate. They shut down the economy. Anyway, it was a fake pandemic and an illicit economic lockdown and tremendous, far-reaching consequences for the economy and financial system. So I try to cover whatever bears down on the finance and economic situation. It's a monthly newsletter. A monthly newsletter. The subscribe button is yellow right in the middle. I do consult sessions. I take donations for people who don't choose to sign up but want to support me. They don't want to read a monthly newsletter, but they want to support me. And I got a sponsor button for wealthy folks who want to support my mission in a very big way. This is a mission toward truth. This is a mission to support, I believe, the God factor. My work supports the God factor in opposition to satanic plots, programs, initiatives, depopulation, fraudulent directives, and extraordinary damage to households, businesses, and people's health in addition to society. Okay, so this is a very far-reaching battle that we're engaged in, and the Hat Trick Letter, which is the name of the newsletter, the only one on the golden-jackass.com site, discusses a lot of these different topics, and usually there's 6 or 7 different chapters in a monthly report. So it's out. It was out about 2 weeks ago, and it's going very well. And people are under a lot of pressure. I realize that, but the newsletter is doing very well.
Now, at the top of the show, you talked a little bit about the Trump-Harris debate. Your thoughts, maybe expanded.
Yeah, well, expanded. I'll make some general comments. We've had 4 years of a dead president, a dead guy, and a fake playing his role, and all kinds of computer-generated imagery of like his hand going right through the microphone section, computer-generated imagery, and that has been the two-dimensional president that we've had. But it's a small p and a capital R because he was the fake resident. And we've endured 4 years almost of this nonsense and corruption, which has really been a fascist coup d'etat. And I could go on for an hour about this. I'm trying to be brief, and it's very hard. Kamala Harris didn't earn a single delegate during the primaries, was a very corrupt and controversial attorney general in California, had a very poor far-left liberal to the left of Bernie Sanders. Is that even possible? During her brief time in the Senate, and just like Barack Obama, almost not even a complete term as senator, and launched before us as a presidential candidate, but it's really more like a puppet figure for the cabal to continue. And Barack Obama wants to be in control for a fourth term. He had his own 2 terms. The Kenyan interloper, Fudge Packer, born in Kenya, not in Hawaii, fake Social Security number out of a Connecticut database. And now Kamala Harris, I'm not even sure that she was born in the United States. I'm not even certain of its gender. There are a lot of pictures of a fellow named Kamal Arouche out of Libya, and has the identical face, a male identical face. Anyway, there was a power struggle when the fake Joe Biden fell on his face during the debate in late July. And according to political poll out of Wall Street, Biden lost about 17.5% that evening. And the mainstream news reports that he lost 3.5%. No, it was 5 times that. We've been told now for the last 2 months almost that Kamala Harris is a moderate, except its vote in the Senate was to the left of the most left Bernie Sanders, so not moderate at all. She talks about censorship. She talks about confiscating guns. She talks about leaving the border open. She is a pure globalist cabal creature, a swamp creature. Last night, she had an improper installed earpiece. It's a high-tech, very expensive earpiece posing as an earring, except it did not have a matching version on the other ear. So that was a coaching violation. And, we've had so many different violations in the last month and a half that it's pretty hard even to count them all. We've had this person portrayed as a centrist when she couldn't be more far left, and she even has a Soviet Union communist membership card with 7 different annual payments on it. And I got that in my August report. They have falsified the greeting events at airports. A reflection off the airplane showed an empty tarmac, but with computer-generated imagery, CGI. I'll be referring to CGI from here on. The CGI imposition showed 5,000 people at the airport, but she got busted by, I don't know exactly where it was. I think it might have been Chicago or northern New York or someplace. I'm not sure, the Northeast. But she got busted by an airport worker who knew that she arrived with no audience. And the only audience was really her own team and her own Secret Service protection. So the guy contacted the Trump office, and they made a video on how Harris falsified an arrival. Well, they've been using now more elaborate methods by paying homeless people and other people $150 to show up at her campaign stops because nobody really much supports her. I think the polls are a joke. I don't think they're doing any sampling at all. I think they're just saying that it's now 55 to 45 or 52 to 48 or 50-50 neck and neck, when really it's more like about 80% Trump and 20% Harris. And I'm being conservative there. It might be 85% Trump and 15% Harris. Harris, shortly after being selected by the backroom deals with the Rockefeller agent and the Soros agent. There was a Philadelphia campaign stop, and only 50 or 60 people showed up, and I believe a third of them might have been her friends and the Secret Service. Okay, so now they're falsifying the events. There was one really quite interesting item. It was somewhere in eastern Pennsylvania, and Harris arrived by a bus, and all along the 3 or 4 or 5 miles for the highway, it's like a 2-lane highway, there were MAGA supporters for Trump waving at her, and many of them were giving her the bird, the middle finger. So she doesn't really have much of any legitimate support. And my firm belief is that her main supporters and voters are dead people. They are illegal migrants. They are her friends. They are her photocopy machines. Those are the main voters for Kamala Harris. And never leave out the brain-dead liberal Democrats, the liberal retards, who are cheering all along the way. They're cheering the installation of communist policies in the United States to create a one-party system with censorship, no free speech, and political opponents being jailed. They're cheering like absolute morons. Now, some quick comments about the lies during the debate. There was a very good rendition by a Jim Hoft, and Kamala falsely claimed that not one member of the U.S. military in active duty is in a combat zone, and that's not true. Ukraine, absolutely. Kamala falsely claimed that she does not support a government takeover of health care. Well, she does. She's in full favor of Obamacare. Kamala denied that she supports a fracking energy ban, fracking gas, and she does, and she's on record that she does. And she denied that she's in favor of mandatory gun confiscation, and she's had interviews about her gun confiscation plans violating the Second Amendment. She's on record with her own videos. She's a liar. Kamala said that's not true when Trump highlighted her support of defunding the police, which she has repeatedly called for. Kamala denied that she was raising money, that she had raised money to bail out violent rioters from jail in 2020, and she's got her tweets from Twitter that are still on record, available to see. Kamala falsely claimed that Trump supports Project 2025, and he has never done any such thing. Kamala claimed that Tim Waltz, her, tampons in the men's room, Tim Waltz did not legalize abortion on demand until birth in Minnesota, which is exactly what he did. They're in favor of abortion all the way to the moment of birth. And the third trimester is very controversial because those are babies that could survive with the premature treatment and the special oxygen, little chambers, little baby chambers. Kamala falsely claimed that Trump supports a national abortion ban, but he doesn't. He supports state rights to determine. And Kamala resurrected the Charlottesville hoax, which fact checkers have already debunked. She could not explain why 20 million illegal aliens invaded the country. She could not explain why inflation is triple what it was during the Trump 4 years. She still supports radical 9-month abortion on demand. It's really late 8 months. And she couldn't explain why the country is struggling with massive crime waves. And there's something that has to be said about that a lot of people don't know. The FBI has informed 200 cities that they really don't want to have crimes reported to the FBI. Just deal with it yourselves. In other words, they're falsifying the crime statistics at the FBI federal level. She actually blames Trump for the Afghanistan withdrawal that left 13 soldiers dead and $85 billion of war materiel behind. Okay, we are dealing with an unbelievable situation of colossal lies misrepresentation of the record and misrepresentation of the support visible at campaign stops, and they're making up the political polls out of whole cloth. Total bullshit. I've seen 3 or 4 different surveys, political polls, and they're all showing Donald Trump at 70% or higher. And they're not twisted type polls of Republican camps. He's fighting the noble battle to restore the republic, and he's fighting against a global cabal that is funded by narcotics money laundering. Big narco war chest. To bribe people like Zuckerberg at Facebook, and now Facebook had been, let's just say they're beginning to turn around toward an honest election, lack of censorship. And Trump has let it be known that people who are involved with state-level presidential election fraud, they will probably be serving a lifetime prison sentences when they get caught and processed. I'd like to see 1,000 election officials and mules arrested and put in prison in Greenland where they don't see the light. Just put them down 16 floors down. They've got 100,000 prison cells in Greenland. It's the Thule military base. We're going to see some very exciting developments with fraud brought out in full view, and some of the 7 major news networks in the United States, some of them are going to be showing the fraud. I've been rather impressed with some of the revealed truth by Fox News. We've got actually a few, only a sprinkling of elements of truth with CNN. I saw a CNN show, and they were disputing the last 4 years for the Biden-Kamala show. They were disputing some of the claims. So, actually, we're not better off 4 years ago. This was on CNN. I saw the same thing on Fox News. There's some that are irreparable, like MSNBC. That is a Bill Gates creation. That'll never be reformed. And I got to say, regarding the press, there was a very big event. I know it's a long answer, but the rest will be shorter. This is very important. It's very important that we are going to be seeing conversion of the news toward the truth. CNN's parent corp, it's called Warner Brothers Discovery. Warner Brothers Discovery. I'm not certain of the name. But the parent corporation of CNN just did a write-off of over $900 million for their entire television network business. It's because CNN has fallen by 85 to 90% in their viewing audience. So if you get upset seeing a CNN lie on their show, on their network news, don't be too upset, because you're one of the very small number of people who are watching. And a lot of people have given up on the channel. I think they're being prepared for a forced divestiture to an honest reporting network news corporation. This is very interesting how advertising revenue has fallen dramatically for the lying MSM press. And I don't know for sure about the phenomena inside Canada. I just don't know.
Harris didn't stumble like Biden did in the last debate. Do you think this will cause all the Trump supporters to get out and vote?
I think, we had very low standards of expectation for Kamala Harris. Some people thought she was going to giggle. And some people thought that she was going to talk about the significance of discussing the insignificant is itself significant. And some people thought she was going to be extremely focused in the significance of the passage of time. But she got coached. She didn't fall on her face. She actually got coached rather effectively by the Obama team. She did not come across as a moron, but she had that improper, invalid device on her ear, which coached her. I don't give her much credit. So she didn't fall on her face. She only lied 18 times. Now, in the next several days, we're likely to hear a lot about the misrepresentation of Kamala a misrepresentation of her record, a misrepresentation of her views, a misrepresentation of the campaign platform. You know, when I watched the clips of the Democrat convention, I thought it was quite interesting. You know, I've been watching a lot of these. My first one that I paid closer attention to was Kennedy in 1960. And I know I go back, but so be it. I'm 72 years old. I have a good memory of a lot of these different conventions. And it's really important to create a platform. And the platform for the political party has like 6, 8, 10 different planks. What are the issues and where do you stand and what are you going to do when you become president if you become president? And what I thought the 3 planks for the Democrat Party, which I prefer to call the Dem Fascists or the Damn Fascists, the Damn Fascists had 3 main planks. We hate Trump, we don't like Trump, and we despise Trump. Now, that's a very ineffective set of planks to form the fascist Dem platform. So I don't give Kamala Harris any credit at all. She didn't fall on her face, but she lied 18 times, and I defy you to find anything that she said that was true. I defy anybody to find anything that she said that was true.
Do you miss the old Ted Turner days of CNN where he tried to be as truthful as possible, exposing every point of view? He had the Freedom Games because he thought the Olympics were political. And then once CNN was taken over by Time Warner, they stopped referring to the U.S. government says, the Russian government says, to saying us and them. Do you miss those old days?
I do. And what you're referring to is the flip for the Mockingbird, where Langley and the Central Intelligence Agency, under the pretext of security, took over the major news networks. And back then there were only 3, ABC, NBC, CBS. And we had, at that time, public radio, National Public Radio, and the Langley took over that also after about 8 or 10 years. I remember it distinctly. It was, I think, the late 70s they took over National Public Radio. Ted Turner was an interesting guy, and you know it's an entirely different subject to get into that. But let it be known that when the major corporations, the fascist corporations, there are only 5 now that control all the media networks, publications, and radio. Only 5 companies. So we've got a pyramid of control. But I really didn't like Ted Turner. And, you know, if you want to know more about Ted Turner, ask Jane Fonda. Now, I know Jane Fonda is a controversial figure, and I know she was, you know, a little left-leaning and
a little
painted. Yeah, I know, and painted a very pro-North Vietnam picture, and really pissed off a lot of prisoners of war and soldiers in the United States. And she could have been charged with treason, aiding, abetting, and encouraging the enemy. But if you really want an interesting conversation, ask her why she divorced Ted Turner. And the party line is that she didn't want the seclusion of living on 2 different Montana ranches. The real reason might have been how he joined the cabal and some of their sick activities. Let's move on.
The Fed meets next week. Do you think they're going to do?
I think it's very possible that they might lower interest rates. I don't think it's the right thing to do, but I believe that we have been prepared with false economic data to say that inflation is not so bad, and it's really terrible. It's still 7-8%. And we're being conditioned to think that the labor market is weak and needs some encouragement. Now, I told you before that when they talk about price inflation as a threat, then they do not lower interest rates. And whenever they're tempted to raise interest rates, they point out the weak economy. And I got something right, Jim. I've been saying since January and February that they're not going to do anything. They're going to do they're going to talk about inflation, and they're going to talk about the weak economy, then they'll talk about inflation, then they'll talk about the weak economy, and they're going to go back and forth like a Pong game, bouncing off the walls. And at each turn, they decide not to cut rates and not to raise rates. And now we're here. And for political reasons, Wall Street might favor the fascist Dems. They're not democratic. They're not democratic. Democratic system believes